Oh wow, good morning. Happy uh happy Thursday to you. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. You're like, why is he laughing? It's because there's a little gray something above my shoulder, and it's just funny looking. All right, we'll just have to live with it. Um, Maybe I can go like this. There we go. Now it's gone. I have in case you haven't noticed, I have the ability to mask out my body and put in this bookcase in the back, and it helps me when I accidentally leave my jacket on the bed. So that's what you're seeing, and yeah. All right. So I normally have it. Let me just hold on a second. All right, that's much better. Now it's gone. All right, so welcome to all of you. It's Thursday, and it is October 16th, 2025, and it is 51 degrees outside. So I hope you enjoyed. Yesterday it was 73 degrees outside. And not yesterday, I mean a week ago. Well, a week ago it was raining. But I mean, basically you get like it's never like in the 60s. It's always like in the 80s or in the 50s. And this is just the world we live in. Thank you for joining me this morning. I I well, let's do the birthdays first. Let me close that out. So we have today is Valerie Hoffman's birthday, and then tomorrow is Kelsey Spock and Steve Briscoe, and then Trace Looney is on the 18th, which would be Saturday. And then the rest of the birthdays are on Monday. And we'll have a special birthday on Monday when we get back together again. Somebody who's going to be 103 on Monday, if you can believe that. 103 years old. Oh my goodness. So anyway, just a beautiful cold day outside and a beautiful day in the Lord. We'll be together today, and then we're off on Friday, Saturday, Sunday's church, and then we're back together again on Monday. Really nothing coming up that I know of that's major. Yeah. All right. I'm excited to get into our study today. So let's just go ahead and get into our study. We are in Numbers chapter 5, and this is a chapter that's dedicated to the purity of the camp. And it's got something interesting in it that you may find very interesting. So let's just start reading. This is Numbers chapter 5, verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites to send away from the camp anyone who has a defiling skin disease, or a discharge of any kind, or who is ceremonially unclean because of a dead body. Send away male and female alike. Send them outside the camp, so they will not defile their camp, where I dwell with them." The Israelites did so. They sent them outside the camp. They did just as the Lord had instructed Moses. So we have seen this in Leviticus. There was quite a bit of discussion about what is a pure, what is impure, actually, and it was basically a skin disease, or pus coming out of the body, or blood coming out of the body, all these different things. And basically, you were to isolate for a while, come back in a few days and see how you were doing. I mean, there was a whole ritual attached to it, and the whole purpose of it is to prevent the spreading of disease throughout the camp. Well, it's commanded by God, but my reading of it is that God gave it to the Israelites so that they wouldn't spread diseases throughout the camp. And we know that today, through epidemiology, that these things are very, very beneficial to get people to protect the camp from diseases. And once the disease shows up, they're separated from the camp. And so we've seen this before. And basically, the Lord is just reiterating to Moses that these are the things that you should do. There's a whole bunch of chapters in Leviticus on this, and it's just one little paragraph with 4 sentences where the Lord reminds Moses to keep those people out of the camp, send them away, both male and female, so that they will do not defile the camp, and don't touch the dead body. There were a couple chapters on touching dead bodies and what you should do if you touch a dead body, and who can touch a dead body, and how long after you touch the dead body before you can be reintroduced into the camp. And so that's just a reminder of that. And then verse 5, the Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, any man or woman who wrongs another in any way and so is unfaithful to the Lord is guilty and must confess their sin they have committed. They must make full restitution for the wrong they have done and add a fifth the value to it and give it all to all the persons that they have wronged, and give it all to the person they have wronged. But if that person has no close relative to whom restitution can be made for the wrong, the restitution belongs to the Lord and must be given to the priest, along with the ram with which atonement is made for the wrongdoer. All the sacred contributions the Israelites bring to a priest will belong to him. Sacred things belong to their owners, but what they give to the priest belongs to the priest. And we've seen this before also. This is back in Leviticus. If there is a restitution that needs to be made to another person, then that restitution includes a 20% tax, a restitution tax, if you will. A fifth is added. A fifth of the value is added. So if you stole something, you probably wouldn't steal something. Maybe if you broke something that belonged to your neighbors, you have to replace it with another of equal value, but add 20% to it. And I didn't say this back then, but there's a thing called eminent domain in the United States, which is if the whole community feels that the property of somebody is extremely valuable to the whole community. I am trying to think of. Normally, it's used in housing developments or commercial developments where there's one holdout property and the whole community can come together and say, you can't hold out this property. And in those instances, the community does try to make a restitution to that person for the value of that property plus more. I remember years ago, back when the Arizona Department of Transportation was trying to obtain properties to put in future freeways, the route location studies of the freeways in Phoenix were done all in the 80s and early 90s. And the purpose of these route location studies was to determine which lands the freeways should go on. And so they started going up and buying land, because once you show that there's lots of trains of thoughts on this, but basically any land adjacent to a freeway should radically go up in value. But the land that is underneath the freeway has no value at all because it's been identified as a freeway. So the only thing it could be used for is a freeway. And that's why it is so, so important to be 10, 15, 20 years out in obtaining land for freeways, because a freeway does radically change the value of property around the freeway system. And if you're smart, which ADOT is very, very smart, you try to get ahead of it so that you can, because one holdout could cost you millions and millions and millions of dollars. But anyway, they would try to get these properties, and they would actually overpay for the property, for the value of the property at that point. which is right, because you're relieving a person of a piece of property, um, and more important than that, you're relieving them of the future potential of the property. But if you get enough in advance, like 20 years in advance, the value is not going to show up for 20 years. And so the question the person of the property owns is, do I hold on to this property for 20 years in the hopes that the freeway actually gets built, and then I will get a return for that money, or do I just sell it to ADOT? And a lot of times they sold to ADOT. And ADOT tried to be very, very fair in their evaluations. At least that's what I understood, because we were working closely with ADOT, and that's what they told us. But it is also quite possible that they were not being fair. What is fair? So that is just to say that that is just to say that if you damage somebody's property, you don't ever want them coming back and saying, you didn't give me enough. And so adding the 20% is just a really, really good idea anyway. And even more than that, if you've damaged somebody's property. A close relative, if there's no restitution, if they have no family members, then they must give it to the priest. And that basically then goes to the whole community. All the sacred contributions of Israelites bring to a priest will belong to him. Sacred things belong to their owners, but what they give to the priest belongs to the priest. So there's a purpose for the priest. But I don't want to belabor that point, because I want to get into this next section, which is just so fascinating. All right. You may not even know that this is in the Bible. All right, this is verse 11. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him, so that another man has sexual relations with her, and this is hidden from her husband, and her impurity is undetected, since there is no witness against her and she has not been caught in the act, and if feelings of jealousy come over her husband, and he suspects his wife and she is impure, or if he is jealous and suspects her even though she is not impure, then he is to take his wife to the priest. He must also take an offering of 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour on her behalf. He must not pour olive oil on it or put incense on it, because it is a grain offering for jealousy, a reminder offering to draw attention to the wrongdoing. The priest shall bring her and have her stand before the Lord. Then he shall take some holy water in a clay jar and put some dust from the tabernacle floor into the water. After the priest has had the woman stand before the Lord, he shall loosen her hair and place in her hands the remainder offering, the grain offering for jealousy, while he himself holds the bitter water that brings a curse. Then the priest shall put the woman under oath and say to her, if no other man has had sexual relations with you, and you have not gone astray and become impure while married to your husband, may this bitter water that brings a curse not harm you. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband, and you have made yourself impure by having sexual relations with a man other than your husband, here the priest is to put the woman under the curse. May the Lord cause you to become a curse among your people when he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your body, so that your abdomen swells and your womb miscarries. And the woman says to her, and the woman is to say, Amen, so it be, or so be it. The priest is to write these curses on a scroll and then wash them off in the bitter water. He shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and this water that brings a curse and causes bitter suffering will enter her. The priest is to take from her hands the grain offering for jealousy, wave it before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. The priest is then to take a handful of the grain offering as a memorial offering and burn it on the altar. After that, he is to have the woman drink the water. If she has made herself impure and been unfaithful to her husband, this will be the result. When she is made to drink the water that brings a curse and causes bitter suffering, it will enter her, her abdomen will swell, and her womb will miscarry, and she'll become a curse. If, however, the woman has not made herself impure but is clean, she'll be cleared of the guilt and will be able to have children. This, then, is the law of jealousy when a woman goes astray and makes herself impure while married to her husband, or when feelings of jealousy come over a man because he suspects his wife. The priest is to have her stand before the Lord and to apply this entire law to her. The husband will be innocent of any wrongdoing, but the woman will bear the consequences of her sin. Now, this this is the test for adultery in the Old Testament for the Israelites, and it almost seems like the Salem witch trials, doesn't it? Where they would dunk a person under the water, and if they drowned, they were probably guilty. But if they didn't drown, that they were not guilty. And the ancient Near East is filled with these types of tests for these types of things. And it almost sounds like, just very, very bizarre, doesn't it? But a couple things to note here. First of all, I mean, the most important thing to note is that, and this is very, very true, if a man suspects his wife is committing adultery, and there is absolutely no way to prove it, right? There was nobody that saw it. It was hidden from everybody. The only people that know it are the woman and the person she had adultery with. And if most men, I would say, probably all men, this is devastating. The idea that your wife has been unfaithful to you and with another guy is probably one of the most devastating things that can happen for a man in a marriage. It will drive him insane. And so the idea that there can be a test for it in its broadest sense is a wonderful thing, because this means the woman can go to the temple, the tabernacle. The priest can do this test. If it comes back clean, then the man can be relieved and say, okay, there's no adultery going on. I can live in peace. And even if, let's say, there is adultery going on, the woman realizes now the seriousness of all of this, and perhaps she'll stop doing adultery. I don't know. She certainly will not be able to bear children if she's had an adulterous affair and she's got children within her. There is. I think giving birth to a child under strenuous circumstances like this is very challenging. I think the stress of something like this could actually induce some sort of miscarriage. And it brings to the attention of everybody that there's a suspicion of adultery. So in its broadest sense, it really puts a finality to it, because if she's been shown that she doesn't have adultery, or she hasn't, I mean, if the test comes back that she hasn't had adultery, then she can go back to her husband. They can live together. His stress is relieved. They can continue to live together. It's a wonderful way to bring back the relationship, I guess you could say. But the difference on this one, though, is in some of those tests, obviously, like the Salem witch trials, right? I mean, the person could die from it. This test is really kind of innocuous. It's just dust off of the floor of the sanctuary, which probably people inhale that dust all the time. So it's not going to kill them. As a matter of fact, it probably does less damage in your gut than it does when you inhale it in your nose or your mouth. So really it's not a test that's going to kill anybody. It's not a test that, there was another test where you put your hand in boiling water, and if it came back unscathed, I mean, some of these tests were pretty bad. This of all the tests, to drink water from the dust of the sanctuary is not a bad test. Um, it is really, in my opinion, it is a great way to bring reconciliation, to have a test of something that can't be proven, and it also highlights the fact that men may need something like this because an adulterous affair can be so devastating. I understand that when it comes to divorce, the vast majority of time, it's the woman leaving the guy. And many times it's because she wants to harm him, get back to him. She feels like she's not being loved and she can find somebody else that can love more. There's a lot of, we are created differently. And this is something I think that would be very beneficial for the Israelite community. And the whole purpose of it is to create purity. Why do I say purity? It has a lot of connotations in today. To create a sense of holiness in that the community is being protected from all the things that can harm and damage the community. Now, obviously, if the woman is seen, or the man and the woman are seen doing adultery, that's a totally different thing. But when you're, by definition, when you're committing adultery, you want to do it in secret so that nobody sees it. And so I think this is a great test. It costs a lot of money, so the guy doesn't do this all the time because it's going to cost him an ephah of barley flour, oil, a ram. I mean, just all these different things that are part of this test. It's like you go to today, you go and get a ultrasound or something, and it costs money, so you don't do it all the time. But if it's getting to the point where the guy just simply can't bear it, then this is a great way to go and do this test. And the big question here is, does God supernaturally cause the woman to miscarriage if she's guilty? And it doesn't necessarily say that here. I think that's implied. And I think that God certainly could do that. But it's also quite possible that the woman throughout this whole thing might miscarry because of the stress of all this too. It's just not really all that clear. But yes, indeed, there is a test for adultery in the Old Testament. And this is it. And I think that this is a most fascinating chapter of Numbers. And I think this test is most fascinating too. And I do believe that it is not a bad thing for the Israelites to do this. I think it brings reconciliation and healing. I mean, if anything, maybe the woman doesn't even realize that, or maybe the man doesn't realize that there's something in the relationship. And so going through this process, can you imagine? She goes through it and she comes out and she realizes that that he was feeling this way, and so maybe it brings reconciliation within the marriage. I don't know. I think it might be in today's modern world, this would never pass. But for 3,500 years ago, when this type of test was going on, this was a great way to reconcile a marriage and to bring about healing in a marriage and test for marriage purity and all that sort of thing. So I'm not against this at all. I think it's a great thing. And I'm glad that God tells Moses to do this, because I think it's a great thing. And it doesn't harm the woman. It's not going to kill her, for sure. All right. I think we'll leave it there, and we'll go to the next chapter when we get back together. Let me just go over here. Yeah, let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day, and keep us safe over the weekend, and bring us back again on Monday. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. For you joining online, I appreciate it very much. I'm glad you're back from Michigan. And I pray you all have a great weekend. And we'll see you later. Take care. Bye.